Rock and roll lost one of its quiet giants, and the people who made music alongside him are now stepping forward, one by one, to say what he meant to them. Dave Mason, the celebrated singer, songwriter, and musician who was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a co-founder of Traffic, died on Sunday, April 19, at the age of 79. He passed away peacefully at his home in Gardnerville, Nevada. His publicist shared the family's statement. On behalf of his family, it is with deep and profound sadness that we share the news of the passing of Dave Mason. Dave Mason lived a remarkable life devoted to the music and people he loved. And today, as his wife, his daughter, and a music world that stretches from London to Los Angeles grieves, we want to honor that life fully. The funeral update, the tributes, the story of a man who played on some of the most important recordings in rock history, often without getting the credit he deserved, and who spent his final years doing exactly what he loved, exactly on his own terms. According to a statement shared via his official channels, Mason passed away in his favorite chair alongside his dog, following a quiet evening at home with his wife, Winifred, a moment his family described as a storybook ending to a life defined by musical restlessness and love. A favorite chair, his dog beside him, his wife nearby. For a man who spent 60 years on stages around the world, that ending is not just peaceful, it is perfect. He is survived by his beloved wife and partner, Winifred Wilson, his daughter Danielle, nephew John Leonard, niece Michelle Leonard, and his brothers-in-law Sloan and Walton Wilson. He was preceded in death by his son, True, who passed in 2006, and his sister, Valerie Leonard. No official public funeral date has been announced by the family at this time. Given the private and peaceful nature of his passing, those closest to him are expected to hold an intimate celebration of his life before any broader memorial is confirmed. What we know is this: when that celebration happens, it will carry the weight of 60 years of music that touched millions of lives. And the people already speaking about him make clear that the room, in spirit, will be very full indeed. Now the tributes. And the one that landed hardest came from the man Dave Mason made music with at the very beginning, and spent much of his life in a complicated, unresolved, deeply human relationship with. Steve Winwood wrote on social media, "We were deeply saddened to hear of Dave Mason's passing. Dave was part of Traffic during its earliest chapter and played an important role in shaping the band's sound and identity during that time. His songwriting, musicianship, and distinctive spirit helped create music that has lasted far beyond its era and continues to mean so much to listeners around the world. Those years remain a special part of the band's story, and Dave's contribution to them is not forgotten. His place in that history will always be remembered, and through the music, his presence endures. At this sad time, our thoughts are with his family, his friends, and all those who loved him and his music. Through the music, his presence endures." From a man who had a famously complicated relationship with Dave Mason, who feuded with him at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction, who navigated decades of tension and distance, those words carry something deeper than a standard tribute. They carry the weight of shared history, of two people who made something extraordinary together in 1967, drifted apart in ways that neither fully resolved, and now find themselves on opposite sides of a goodbye that can never be answered. With Mason's death, Steve Winwood is now the only surviving member of Traffic. Capaldi passed away in 2005 at 60, and Chris Wood passed in 1983 at 39. The last one standing, carrying the whole story alone now. But wait, let me ask you something. Have you ever watched two people, who clearly had something extraordinary between them, spend years unable to fully reconcile, holding grudges about things that, from the outside, seem so small compared to what they built together? That was Dave Mason and Steve Winwood for much of their adult lives. Feuds over guitar solos at Hall of Fame ceremonies, arguments about deathbed promises, years of distance and frustration. And yet, the first person to speak publicly when Dave Mason died was Steve Winwood, with words that were generous, measured, full of a respect that apparently never actually went away. That says everything about who Dave Mason was to the people who worked with him. Even the complicated relationships held love. Now let's talk about the man himself, because the tributes only mean something when you understand what he actually did. Dave Mason was a fiery guitarist, strong songwriter and singer, a sideman to the Rolling Stones, George Harrison and Jimi Hendrix, and co-founder of Traffic alongside Winwood, Jim Capaldi and Chris Wood. Over his career, Mason played, recorded, and performed with Paul McCartney, George Harrison, Eric Clapton, the Rolling Stones, Jimi Hendrix, David Crosby, Graham Nash, Michael Jackson, Steve Winwood, Fleetwood Mac, Leon Russell, Delaney Bramlett, and Cass Elliot. Read that list again. That is not a supporting player. That is one of the most connected musicians in the history of rock and roll. A man who touched virtually every major strand of the genre, and whose fingerprints are on recordings that have been played billions of times across 6 decades. He contributed acoustic guitar to Jimi Hendrix's All Along the Watchtower on Electric Ladyland, a track that became one of the most iconic recordings in rock history. And yet, Dave Mason was never quite a household name. He was always slightly to the side of the spotlight, the songwriter whose songs others made famous, the guitarist in the background of someone else's legendary album, the co-founder who kept leaving and rejoining, who kept getting passed over for reunions, who kept being asked to play bass instead of guitar. He was, in the most honest sense of the word, underrated, and he knew it, and he kept going anyway. In 2024, doctors detected a serious heart condition during a routine checkup, forcing him to cancel his fall tour. He said at the time, "I'm heartbroken to have to cancel these dates, but it's doctor's orders. I'll be back and better than ever in 2025. He believed it. He was planning to come back. But in March 2025, he contracted a severe infection and began battling ongoing health complications. He canceled his entire 2025 tour and wrote to his fans, "Recovery is a long road. My love for you all runs deep. God bless." His wife Winifred wrote on her website during this period, "In the fall of 2024, my husband fell ill, and with it, the end of our touring days around the world. Such events dictate a very different tour, that into our bodies and spirits and souls. Not that we've never looked there while we were on the road, of course we did, but today it's commanding our full attention. A different kind of tour, into their bodies and spirits and souls." Winifred Wilson, yoga teacher, author, partner of 8 years, was walking that road alongside him, quietly, privately, right up until that final evening in the favorite chair. Last fall, Mason announced his retirement from touring, citing ongoing health challenges. He retired from touring a happy man, with a heart full of gratitude to his band members, business colleagues, and especially his legions of fans who made his life one of deep satisfaction and fulfillment. A happy man, with a heart full of gratitude. That was his final statement to the world before he died. Not bitterness about the feuds, not regret about the Hall of Fame ceremony, not grief over the complicated years. Gratitude, satisfaction, fulfillment. 60 years of music, thousands of shows, recordings that will outlive everyone who ever played on them, and a man who ended his touring days, in his own words, happy. One fan wrote on Instagram, "I am so sad to hear about his passing. He was a GOAT, amazing songwriter, guitarist, and performer. He will be sorely missed. My sincere condolences to Winifred. May his memory be a blessing." A GOAT in a favorite chair, with his dog, his wife nearby, the music still playing somewhere in every room. That's Dave Mason. May his memory be a blessing. If this tribute moved you, Drop a comment and share your favorite Dave Mason song or memory. And if you have his music, put it on today. Thank you for watching.